Welcome back to Jimmy Invest. Let me ask you a question that almost nobody thinks about. If I handed you $10,000 today, could you realistically turn it into $100,000? Most people instantly answer, I just need a better investment. But that's rarely the real answer. The biggest obstacle isn't choosing the perfect stock, finding a secret strategy, or predicting the market. It's understanding the simple math that quietly separates people who build wealth from people who spend their entire lives chasing a bigger paycheck. In today's video, we're going to break down exactly how $10,000 can eventually become $100,000, not through luck, hype, or gambling, but through logic, time, and a financial system almost nobody was ever taught. Imagine two friends graduating from college in the United States. Both are 24 years old. Both land office jobs paying around $65,000 a year. And after taxes, they each bring home roughly $4,300 every month. On paper, their financial lives look almost identical. They rent similar apartments for about $1,600 per month, make car payments of around $450, pay another $250 for insurance, spend nearly $600 on groceries, utilities, internet and phone bills, and, if they attended university, student loan payments might consume another $350 every month. Before they even think about investing, almost 80% of their income already has a destination. By the end of each month, both friends wonder the same thing. Where did all my money go? It feels like the salary simply disappears. Most people assume this is an income problem. They believe earning another $10,000 a year will finally solve everything. But something interesting happens when salaries increase. Expenses usually increase just as quickly. A nicer apartment suddenly feels justified. The old car gets replaced with a more expensive one. Vacations become larger, restaurant visits become more frequent. Monthly subscriptions quietly multiply. Lifestyle inflation begins without anyone consciously deciding to spend more. The paycheck grows, but financial freedom doesn't. Now imagine that one of these friends receives a $10,000 bonus from work. Most people can probably predict what happens next. Some of the money pays off short-term expenses. A portion goes toward a vacation that has been postponed for months. Maybe a new television replaces the old one, the phone gets upgraded, or furniture finally gets replaced. None of these purchases are necessarily irresponsible. They're simply immediate rewards that provide short-term satisfaction. Within 6 months, the bonus has almost completely disappeared. If someone asked where the money went, there would be no single answer. It dissolved into dozens of ordinary purchases that individually seemed harmless. The second friend does something much less exciting. Before spending a single dollar, they ask one simple question. Can this money continue working after I spend it? That question completely changes every financial decision they make. Instead of seeing $10,000 as spending power, they begin seeing it as productive capital. This shift may sound small, but psychologically it's enormous. Most people view money as something that solves today's problems. Financially intelligent people also see money as something capable of solving future problems. This difference becomes much easier to understand when you stop thinking about dollars and begin thinking about workers. Imagine every dollar is an employee. If you spend all 10,000 employees immediately, they finish one job and disappear forever. But if you invest those employees wisely, they continue working every day, producing additional employees over time. That's exactly what investing really is. You're not buying magic. You're purchasing productive assets capable of generating future value. Of course, many people hear this and immediately think about stock market risk. That's understandable because investing often feels unpredictable. Markets rise, markets fall. News headlines constantly create fear and excitement. But here's the interesting part. Long-term wealth has historically depended less on predicting short-term market movements and more on remaining invested over long periods while allowing compound growth to work. The biggest mistake isn't usually choosing the wrong investment. It's abandoning the process every time uncertainty appears. Let's keep the math simple. Imagine your $10,000 earns an average annual return of around 10% over many years. In the first year, you earn roughly $1,000. Many beginners celebrate that first $1,000. But something more important happens. The following year, your investment is no longer growing from $10,000. It's growing from approximately $11,000. Every future year, the gains begin producing additional gains. This is where compound growth quietly begins accelerating. At first, the progress feels almost disappointing. After 1 year, the difference seems small. Even after several years, many investors become impatient because the graph appears relatively flat. Human psychology struggles with delayed rewards. We naturally prefer immediate gratification over future benefits. Buying something today provides an instant emotional payoff. Waiting years for compound growth offers almost no emotional excitement. That's one reason so many intelligent people unknowingly sabotage their own financial future. Another reason involves comparison. Social media constantly exposes us to expensive cars, luxury vacations, designer clothing, and lifestyles that appear effortless. Even if those lifestyles are financed with debt, they create powerful psychological pressure. People begin measuring financial success by visible consumption rather than invisible ownership. Yet ownership, not appearance, is what quietly builds wealth. Now think about those two friends again. 5 years later, the first friend has enjoyed many memorable purchases, but very little of that original $10,000 remains. The second friend may not appear dramatically wealthier from the outside. They probably still drive a practical car and live within a similar budget. But beneath the surface, something very different is happening. Their money is slowly creating additional money. More importantly, they have developed a system instead of relying on motivation. Every new dollar they earn receives a specific job before it ever reaches their checking account. That system eventually becomes more valuable than any single investment. Because once a person consistently saves, protects an emergency fund, avoids unnecessary high-interest debt, and invests regularly, every future paycheck begins strengthening the same financial machine. Wealth no longer depends on extraordinary effort. It depends on repeating ordinary decisions that quietly compound over decades. Now let's return to the original question. Can $10,000 really become $100,000? Mathematically, yes, but not because of a miracle investment or a secret strategy. It happens because time changes the way growth works. Most people think growth is linear. They assume if an investment earns a little each year, it will keep growing at the same pace forever. But compound growth doesn't behave that way. It starts slowly, almost invisibly, and then gradually begins accelerating because each year's gains become part of the investment itself. The money begins earning returns on previous returns, and that's the part most people underestimate. Think about planting a small tree in your backyard. During the first few years, it barely seems to change. Every morning it looks almost identical to the day before. Many people would become impatient and wonder if it's even growing. But beneath the surface, the roots are expanding. Once the foundation becomes strong enough, the visible growth speeds up dramatically. Wealth behaves in much the same way. The first stage is usually the hardest because the results don't seem impressive. That's exactly why many people quit before they ever experience the most powerful years of compounding. Imagine someone invests their first $10,000 and continues adding just a few $100s every month instead of waiting until they feel rich enough to invest. Those regular contributions matter because they buy more ownership over time. Some months markets rise, other months they fall. Ironically, market declines aren't always bad news for long-term investors because consistent contributions purchase more shares when prices are lower. Emotion tells people to stop investing during uncertain times. Logic suggests continuing the plan if their long-term goals haven't changed. Financially intelligent people understand that consistency often matters more than perfect timing. This is where psychology quietly becomes more important than mathematics. Most financial mistakes are emotional, not intellectual. People know they should save more, spend less, avoid unnecessary debt, and invest consistently. The challenge isn't information, it's behavior. Our brains naturally seek immediate rewards because they feel certain. A new phone creates excitement today. A weekend shopping trip provides instant satisfaction. Compound growth, on the other hand, asks you to exchange today's excitement for tomorrow's security. That's not an easy decision, especially in a culture that encourages constant consumption. There's another hidden system working against many households. Credit makes expensive purchases feel affordable by spreading payments across months or years. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" people begin asking, "Can I afford the monthly payment?" Those are completely different questions. A $40 monthly subscription doesn't seem significant. Neither does another streaming service, a premium phone plan, or financing a slightly more expensive vehicle. Individually, each decision appears harmless. Together, they quietly reduce the amount available for saving and investing every single month. Let's look at some simple math. Suppose someone spends an extra $300 every month on lifestyle upgrades that don't genuinely improve long-term happiness. That's $3,600 every year. Invested consistently over decades with reasonable long-term growth assumptions, that money could potentially grow into a substantial amount. The exact future value depends on market performance and time. But the principle remains the same. Every recurring expense has an opportunity cost. Spending isn't just about the money leaving today, it's also about the future growth that money no longer has the chance to produce. This doesn't mean you should never enjoy life. Financial literacy isn't about living as cheaply as possible. It's about making intentional decisions instead of automatic ones. There's a big difference between buying something because it truly adds value to your life and buying it simply because everyone else seems to have it. Financially stable people still travel, enjoy hobbies, and spend money on experiences they value. The difference is that they usually spend after building a system, not instead of building one. Over time, something interesting begins to happen. As investments grow, they start generating returns that may eventually become larger than the amount being contributed each year. That's a milestone many people never imagine when they first begin. Eventually, the money you've already invested begins working harder than your latest deposit. At that point, your financial progress depends less on working longer hours and more on the assets you've patiently built over many years. This is why wealthy people often describe money as a tool rather than a reward. Tools are meant to produce something useful. They solve problems and create opportunities. When every dollar has a purpose covering essential expenses, protecting against emergencies, reducing debt, or building investments, money becomes organized instead of stressful. The feeling of financial control doesn't usually come from earning an extraordinary income. It comes from knowing exactly where your money is going and why. The journey from $10,000 to $100,000 isn't really about reaching six figures. It's about developing the habits and systems capable of reaching that goal repeatedly. Someone who accidentally builds wealth may lose it just as quickly. Someone who understands the process can rebuild it because the knowledge stays with them. That's the true value of financial literacy. It changes the way you think before it changes the size of your bank account. So if you're looking for the one lesson to remember from this video, it's this: don't ask how quickly your money can grow. Ask whether you've built a system that allows your money to keep growing year after year. The math becomes powerful only after the habits become consistent. And once those habits become part of your everyday life, wealth stops feeling like luck and starts looking like the predictable result of patient, logical decisions made over a long period of time. If today's video helped you understand why the journey from $10,000 to $100,000 is driven more by math, time, and behavior than by luck, then you've already taken an important step toward thinking differently about money. Thank you for watching Jimmy Invest. If you enjoy calm, practical finance videos that simplify investing, wealth building, and money psychology, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, take care and keep learning.